Sir.
There he is. Michael
Yes.
Joyce, FanDuel TV, joining
Look
us
at
here
this.
on the Bostonian versus the book. What's up, dude? Thank you for sticking with us and working at it. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, so I had to go to my iPad instead of the laptop. That's why I've got a terrible shot here. I'm a television guy. I don't like
You're
the
okay.
shot.
Take a shot. It looks good.
I'm gonna have to like duck down so you get the paddock. So
There you
I'm
go.
on the laptop. So we're doing this all, or I'm on the iPad. So we're doing this all from memory because my past performances are on the thing where I'm looking at you two guys now. So hopefully I don't forget anything.
That's fine.
Fire away.
The stogie looks great. You look great. The shot is fine. Have no fear. You fought the traffic and you're there. That's
Yeah,
most
thank you.
important. Now, Saturday,
Yes.
Pimlico,
Yes.
the Preakness.
Yes.
Is anybody going to beat journalism, Mikey?
Look, I like everything about journalism except for the price, and that was my stance on him in the Derby. I liked everything about him but the price. He's going to be a worse price in the Preakness. The Preakness is always the easiest jewel of the Triple Crown, right? So how many Derby winners did we see win the Preakness and do so decisively, and then they couldn't quite get the deal done in the Belmont, right? So the Preakness is usually the easiest. The problem with this year's Preakness, though, is that I don't know if journalism is going to – he's going to get a great trip because of the way he moves, right? He's going to get whatever setup he needs because he can be close to the pace. He can be off of it. Everyone thinks he's this dead closer. If you go back and look at his Los Al Futurity as a 2-year-old, he was right in the body of the race from the get-go. It was a short field. There were two Baffert speed horses with Gaming and Madaket Road in there. And he can sit close if he needs. That's not the problem. The problem to me is I think there's just too many fresh legs in there. I think River Thames is a supremely talented horse, and we're going to see a great performance from him. And I think when they turn for home, River Thames might have 3 or 4 lengths on him, right? So I think a scenario like that. Is he the best horse? Yes. Should he win the Preakness? Yes. Would I recommend wagering on him even with your money? Absolutely not.
What about his post position? Are you concerned at all as to where journalism is going to break from the rail? Is that at all of a concern for you?
Not really. He's first of all, he's a better horse than the rail could compromise him at 1 mile and 3/16 at Pimlico. Second of all, it's a smaller field. It's not like the Derby where there's 20 horses, right? You have less than half of that in the Preakness. So he'll be fine. There's not so much speed, right to his outside that he's going to get shuffled way back and be out the back. And even if he is, he'll be fine. So I'm not worried about the post position at all. I don't think the connections are worried about the post position at all. Look, he's the real deal. He's an excellent horse. He ran a brilliant race in the Derby. There was nothing wrong with his Derby. Just at 1.25 miles on that day, Sovereignty was better. And I think Sovereignty might be a better 1.25 mile horse. I think if you match Sovereignty and Journalism up at 1.125 miles, those two are a little bit closer. 1 mile and 3/16, that's right in between. I think at this distance in this field, Journalism is the best horse. But I think there's a possibility to beat him. And from a wager perspective, if I can get 5 or 6 to 1 on River Thames, then I'm going to go in that direction.
So we have, a heavy sports betting audience. I've worked in the books here in Vegas for almost 2 decades. I love the horses, but I'm not a horse guy. And we're trying to bring people into this world and stuff. A question that a lot of our viewers have and people, watching, why isn't Sovereignty running in this race?
So this is what I'm going to say about the Triple Crown and how it's constituted, and there's calls for them to change it, is that the Triple Crown is a very difficult thing to do. And there's nothing about it that says you have to attempt it every year. Okay, Sovereignty, the reason he's not going in the Preakness has something to do with the kind of horse he is and the way he runs. He is a big horse. He is a heavy horse. He is a grinder, right? His turn of foot is not so electric where he looks like a sports car accelerating in the final 3/16. He just keeps coming at you and keeps going. He closes at a rate that's just gradually faster than everybody else's. So at 1 mile and 1/16, he doesn't look so spectacular. But when you stretch it out to 1.25 miles, that big stride gobbling up the ground. The way he comes out of that race, according to Bill Mott, he didn't come out poorly, but he's just a horse. He's going to do better on 5 weeks than 2. They don't really value making that Triple Crown attempt if they think it would compromise the horse's ability in the Belmont, right? They would rather have their primo A+ game for the Derby, their primo A+ game for the Belmont, than having their primo A+ game for the Derby, their B- game for the Preakness, and then have an empty horse in the Belmont. So it's horse to horse. These are individuals. These are athletes. They're not machines. Journalism. He's a little more athletic than Sovereignty. He's just very well put together. And they were always pointed for the Preakness, hell or high water. They knew they had a horse that could come back in 2 weeks. They kind of saved him and managed him for a Triple Crown campaign. Not that Bill Mott didn't with Sovereignty, but they're just two different kinds of animal.
So journalism went into the Derby. Obviously, a lot of people like journalism. They like Sovereignty, but Sandman was also pretty popular. I mean, the Metallica connection obviously got a lot of people's, eyeballs going at that horse. He didn't run well at the Derby. Do you expect Sandman to bounce back?
He will run better in the Preakness than the Derby. And that is solely because what I know of Mark Casse. The way that he has trained this horse, I think the horse has some foot issues. It's not a big deal. I think outside the sport, everyone's like, oh, foot issues. They're athletes, right? It's like every player in the NBA has, he's got a sprained ankle, a jacked up finger. Every pitcher and catcher have nicks and dings on them. Every football player, there's a difference between hurt and injured in the NFL, right? If you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured, you can't. But everyone deals with something. So with horses, they run on their feet. They have, quarter cracks, or they have this, that. So he's got, questionable feet, nothing bad, nothing dangerous, nothing serious. So I think that, he gaps those workouts 10 days apart. I think because of the way Mark Casse's been training him, and Mark Casse being a brilliant trainer and one of the best to ever throw a saddle over the horse, I would be surprised if he doesn't improve in the Preakness from the Derby. He didn't have a great trip in the Derby. He also didn't fire his best shot. I also think that as things stand right now with this 3-year-old crop, I think he's that second tier. He's not quite that top tier 3-year-old. I don't think he's in the journalism, Sovereignty, and I'll even throw Baeza in that upper tier. I think he's maybe like the B team. So I don't know that he gets the best of journalism on the square tomorrow, but I think some of the new shooters, I'm not giving a lot of credence to Heart of Honor. It's a great story with Jamie and Safi Osborne. It's a father-daughter duo. Jamie Osborne, he's a British guy, but he was a great jumps jockey back in the day. I'm not enthralled with goal-oriented, but we've seen Baffert do this before, come in with a new shooter in the Preakness. He's won more Preaknesses than anyone. I think Clever Again, that's a horse. I probably would put Clever Again in front of Sandman on raw talent and ability, and the way that, he ran his last race at Oaklawn, and they probably put a big circle on the Preakness knowing that they didn't have a Derby horse with him.
Mikey, I've heard so many things as to why to bet on a horse, like in the books. I mean, sitting in the books and with horse bettors is just an absolute joy because you hear a lot of nonsense. You hear some good things here and there.
I live for the nonsense.
It's fantastic. How much stock do you put into the jockeys? I know you do a lot of work with the jockey stuff, but you hear, oh, this guy's riding him, or this guy's on this horse. Now I really like this horse. Or you hear other guys say about this guy, he wouldn't be able to drive a horse to the win with no one else on the track. Do you weigh your handicapping with or without the jockeys and being a part of it?
Yeah, I put a lot of weight into the presence of certain riders. There have been very few riders in my lifetime that I would look at them and they would get on a horse and they would move a horse up. It's the most rare of abilities. And right now, I think, you have maybe a couple of guys in the game that do that. Like Flavien Prat, he can move a horse up, right? He can make that horse appear better. Jose Ortiz, right? You go from an average jockey to him, he can move that horse up a little bit. I think the best back in the day at the height of his powers, Kent DeSormo. And
right.
And you would see it handicapping. Like he would get on a horse and they would improve by 4 lengths. They just love to run from. And some of the smaller jockeys back in the day, like a Julie Crone or a Pat Day, when they get in the irons, the horses would just run for him. Like Rafael Bejarano, people are very critical of his riding skills, but I'll tell you what, horses run for him, right? So I do put a lot of stock in the jockey. And it's not as big of a risk to put too much stock in the jockey as other handicapping angles. Because I have a lot of guys that say, hey, it's horse racing, it's not jockey racing. Yeah, jockeys can be maybe, as little as 1% of the equation to as much as 10% of the equation. But they're the 1 to 10% that's making decisions in the heat of the moment. So their decision-making ability is of the utmost import. And when jockeys are hot, they get better mounts, right? When jockeys are winning more, right, they can press their business. Their agents can get them on those live runners. Trainers that weren't using them perhaps last month, see him win 5 races in a week. Like, all right, you know what? My other guy's on this other horse. Let's put him on this live one, right? So it does make a lot of sense, right? And new people going to the racetrack, My brother is also in racing. He used to be general manager at multiple racetracks. He has his own racing company in Wyoming. But when he would bring new people to the track, he would always say, if you can find the leading rider on a horse at 5-1 or better, bet him. Because that jockey and his agent, if they're the leading rider, probably have their pick of mounts in that race. And if he's ending up on one that's a little bit of a price, they probably see or know something that isn't readily apparent.
Mike, as Dave said, we've got people that are maybe new to horse racing or haven't placed a bet before. If I'm going to the window, give me a fun bet for the Preakness that you like. Give me an exacta, a box, something that you like, because I've heard Pay Billy, I've heard Heart of Honor, you talked about River Thames. There's going to be some 10-1 or longer shots in this race, right?
So I will say this: all of this stuff that I do for a living, right? You can tell people how great it is and how you can come up with stuff. The only person I know who had Country House in the Kentucky Derby the year that he won by DQ when they took the garland of roses off of the back of Maximum Security was my sister-in-law, and that's because she subscribed to Country House magazine. So never let those angles go, my friend. Okay, so whatever we do, that worked better that day. So never forget that. If you like a horse, if you like the name of American Promise because you're patriotic, bet them to win. If you don't got the stomach for it, bet them to place or bet them to show. If what you want to see is the ball go through the hoop and you want to get it, just bet straight. Okay, if you want something, to root for, like the entry into exotic wagering. There's two exotic wagers that are there. The Daily Double and the Exacting. Daily Double, very simple, right? Whatever two races that wager links up, you got to have the winner in each one. You can use as many horses as you want in each one. It's going to cost more per horse. Single race wager, since we're dealing with the Preakness, yeah, I'll give you an Exacta. I'm going to play River Thames on top. I'm going to say he is my pick, my bet. I'll bet him to win. He's 9-2 morning line. I hope I get a little more than that. We'll see. The wagering is going to be funny because journalism is going to get bet down to about even money or 6-5. Yep. And then every other horse seems to be fighting for the role of second choice. Could be Clever Again, Sandman, River Thames, or Goal Oriented. One of those four is going to be second choice. That means one of those four horses is going to be 5-1. I'm hoping it's River Thames. I don't know that it's going to be, but I'm hoping it is. So I'm going to play River Thames, and I'm not so dumb that I think journalism is going to lay an egg. I think he's going to be right there. So I'm going to play an Exacta. I'll play River Thames over journalism. So that's a 6-2 Exacta. And then I'll come back with a 6-8 Exacta. River Thames over Clever Again. And then I'll reverse that and go Clever Again over River Thames. So you do like an Exacta box 6-8 and then do it one more time 6/2.
Oh, a couple years ago, I, for some reason, decided to hit the all button on top, Mike, when Rich Strike won the Kentucky Derby.
That was a great day.
It was unbelievable. Okay.
That's a great day.
And I've been chasing that win, Mikey, since. Like, I don't know how to hit an 80-1 bomb on the top and actually key 4 horses and 4 horses underneath and win the ticket. Okay. Is there a bomb in this, or should we maybe just conservatively bet this, like you just said, not worry about trying to beat the favorite? I mean, journalism's coming in 1 or 2. There's no, I mean, it doesn't look like there's anybody there to push him to finish third. So yeah. I don't think this is one of those, like, let's make it up type deal, big number. You?
I don't. I don't think, I mean, if you think there's a bomb in there, right, you just do what you do and just backwheel journalism and take all with journalism underneath and hope journalism runs his race. And then you get like, Gosker at 20-1 or something to just get him at the wire. Right. So if you want to take that approach, and there are plenty of people out there that will spend, I do the wrong thing. I spend 90% of my time handicapping, 10% putting tickets together. Guys I know that are really good horse players, and you'd think I'd learn from this, but I'm young and stubborn sometimes. They will spend 10% of their time handicapping and then 90% of their time mapping out the plays and how they wager, right? The wagering is far more important. And in my lifetime, I've probably met, a handful of guys that are, can make a living just playing ponies.
Yeah.
And all of them, none of them blew me away with their handicapping prowess. They all blew me away the way they wagered and structured.
They're different
tickets.
People, Mike. They're different people.
Yeah.
They see things like Rain Man, like CC.
Yeah.
You can't explain it to people on this is a master's level, PhD level explanation, right?
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. And they also, they're not risk averse in any way, shape, or form.
Right, which isn't always a good thing. I mean,
no, it's not. But it's you can't be like a compulsive, like I'm just in it for the juice kind of guy.
Right.
You have to be very meticulous and disciplined.
Yes.
But at the same time, you have to not be risk averse, because it is gambling, and that is just the rarest of combinations, right? If somebody's risk averse, they're probably not going to gamble. If somebody's like, hey, like I want my action and I'm going to go play, they're probably not going to be conservative, right? So when you get that meticulous, very disciplined, kind of guy who's also not risk averse, that's kind of the perfect formula for a successful horse player.
You have any worries about the weather? Any concerns about what the track will look like?
Not at this level. I mean, we talk about it unless it comes out up a mud bog. I think they're going to get scattered showers. I don't think you're going to look at sloppy, or I don't even know that they're going to have to seal the track at this point. Hopefully they don't. And when they seal it, that's when they kind of tamp it down. They put the big heavy metal plates down, and they pack all the dirt so the water just rolls off the top. And really, none of these horses, they're all very good horses. They'll all run their race. It's a 9-horse field, not a 20-horse field. So even though there's going to be some kickback and some slop, I think these riders will be able to keep their horses relatively free of traffic trouble. So I'm not too worried about that, unless it creates just an insanely unfair bias favoring one form of a runner or another. I mean, you can make the case that on Derby Day, the last several races, the track was really playing to closers, right? The speed was just having a really tough time in that kind of sloppy, muddy track. But I don't think anyone would argue that the 3 best horses in the Derby didn't finish 1, 2, 3. So even if there is a bias like that, these horses are so good, they should probably overcome it.
Last one for me, sir. It's a 2-part question. One, do you have anything for the Black Eyed Susan, which is, the race today and then, to tomorrow? And 2, what was it like growing up the youngest of 13? Because that was in the bio. Youngest of 13. No one would believe that. So
that is true.
Give you a second to look over for the Black Eyed Susan, but I'm more interested in the answer to the second question.
So to give you an idea of what it's like to be the youngest of 13, I was in college before I ever experienced the sensation of sitting on a cold toilet seat.
That's pretty good.
That should tell you all you know. I am very uncreative in the Black Eyed Susan.
Okay.
I like Amarth, Amarth. I can never say her name right. Eddie Keneally and Luis Saez. I just think she's a very good horse going in the right direction. I will say this: Margie's Intention, good horse. She's gonna get bet off the board, Flavian and Brad Cox. So she will be bad odds. And I would not sleep on Princess Aaliyah for Wayne Lucas and Nick Juarez. I would use her, the 2 horse. She's at 17-1 currently for the odds. But
I like that, right?
Yeah, I would definitely throw her in the mix. This is the kind of race, the kind of day where Wayne Lucas reminds all these young whippersnappers at the tender age of 89 that he is still the greatest to ever throw a saddle over the horse.
Okay.
And and we see him. He wins big races at big numbers because he doesn't care how your horses are doing. He doesn't care who's in the race. His horse is good. He's going to go, and you got to deal with it.
Mike, the chat wants to know if you ever had new clothes as a kid, or were you constantly getting hand-me-downs as the youngest of 13?
I got hand-me-downs until I was in my 30s. Are you kidding me? Why would you ever go to a clothing store? Why would you ever do that?
I love it.
Yeah, I would just, as I hit, I hit different sizes, I would just go like, all right, now I'm my brother Pat's size. Like, oh, I grew a few inches. I'm going to go to Tim's closet, grab something out of there. Like, oh, hey, look at me. I'm hitting 6 foot. I better go check out Paulie's wardrobe.
That's tremendous. Before we let you go, Mike, one, what is your day, your weekend going to look like tomorrow with FanDuel TV? What are you going to be doing? And secondly, if you had to pick one track, we went to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup last year. It looks like we're headed back again this year, hopefully to be there to do our show from there. It was a truly unbelievable experience for both Dave and I to go and see that track. But if you had to pick one track to be at, where would you want to be? What's your favorite track?
So Del Mar is my favorite track. That is it's bar none. And then I could really get like deep in the weeds and start talking about like bush tracks in Idaho and Wyoming and Utah when I was growing up. Hit up like Laurel Brown or Wyoming Downs or something like that. If you want the biggest slice of Americana, you got to do a Labor Day in Rio Downs, New Mexico. Check out the All-American Futurity. Quarter horses going 440 yards. It was the first $1 million race. Even though my dad invented the first $1 million thoroughbred race, that was 3 years after the All-American Futurity hit $1 million. And that's every Labor Day, and it's one of the greatest horse races the entire world over. But Del Mar is my favorite track. Honorable mention to shout out to my quarter horse peeps, Rio Downs in Rio, New Mexico.
Very cool. Did you say your dad invented the first $1 million race?
My dad created the Arlington Million, which was the first $1 million thoroughbred race.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So that was 1981. He was, at the time, he had been running Arlington and a bunch of racetracks for Gulf and Western, Madison Square Garden. He worked for Charlie Bludorn, and then afterwards he was working for Sonny Werblin when Sonny Werblin was running the Garden. And it was my dad, Sonny Werblin, Joe Hirsch, Mike Rorty, who was the chief marketing officer of Budweiser that sponsored everything that took Budweiser to like a 50% market share. And then one other guy, Art Watson, who was the president of NBC Sports. The five of them, my dad had the idea. He pitched it to Sonny Werblin with those other four guys at the table. He knew he had to get the consecration from Joe Hirsch because Sonny Werblin also owned the Jets. And Joe Hirsch, who created the National Turf Writers Association, one of the most famous turf writers of all time, his roommate was a bachelor football player by the name of Joe Namath.
No way.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So my dad knew if he had Joe Hirsch saying, yeah, we're going to do this, Sonny Werblin would listen.
How about that? That's tremendous.
Cool. Wow.
Mike, thank you for joining us. This was awesome. We will do this again. Mike. Enjoy the race tomorrow. Should be a ton of fun. Enjoy the weather out there at San Antonio. It looks gorgeous behind you.
Yeah, and thanks for sitting through my lack of an IT department here on the set. But hey, who knew they had the internet on computers now?
We pulled it off.
It's all good, my friend. Thank you so much. That is
all
Michael Joyce from FanDuel TV joining us here on the Bostonian versus the book. Oh, sorry, I hit that too soon for us here on BVB. Great to get him on the program. Are you going to be betting on Saturday, Dave? Are you betting the Preakness?
Yeah, I haven't figured out exactly. When he started talking about the people with the handicapping versus the betting, that's me. Like, I don't want to dive into the 20 past performances. I don't want to look at this. I don't care who the mama and the daddy are, all that other stuff. I mean, it's good information to know.
Bet the gray? No? Don't bet the gray?
Just keep it basic. I mean, I just picked up a couple bits and pieces.
Okay.
So you got to use the 1, the 6,
and the 8.
The 8, right? That's what he just threw out there to go with journalism. So it might be a 2 with 168 with all, and then the all with 168 with 2, and put journalism in the top 3. The biggest surprise of what will happen in this race on Saturday is that journalism won't hit the board.
How much money, if I do a $1 ticket for all above and journalism underneath, what's that ticket going to run me?
For an exacta, it's there's 8 horses in a race, $16.
And that's going to pay you what if it hits?
Well,
it depends on who wins, I guess.
It could pay you 12.
Yeah, $12. Right?
I mean, if it comes chalk.
Okay.
It's going to pay $12 or what, you're going to lose a little bit. But if the 20-1 comes on top, the 15-1 comes on top, it's going to pay more than not than you're betting. Dave's Daily Pick said it'll be $8. Yeah, I mean, if you spend, it will cost $8 if you don't box it. Yeah, if you don't box it, if you hit all over 2 and an exacta.
This is where I think, from a growth perspective with horse racing, as so many new people have entered the gambling space, and so I feel like we're now in like the 3rd inning of education from a public standpoint, because for a while people were like, what is minus 110? Like that, they walk in, they look at the board, they see all these numbers, they're like, oh my gosh, that's 10,000 numbers. What does this mean? Well, now I think most people who walk into sports books, they know minus 110, $110 to win 100. They figured out that. They're still not good with European odds. They're still not fully comfortable with that, which is what a lot of the horse racing is still in European odds in terms of what it means. So I wonder if horse racing would ever adapt American odds in terms of how the payouts go to make it more accessible for newbie players. The old school people will freak out, but I wonder if there will be a book that will do that. And then I wonder if are we going to have some more like when you bet $10, you don't know what you're going to win, and people have a hard time with that. Like
So fixed odds horse racing.
Yep.
They're trying to institute that in certain places,
and it's not working.
No, it's not. Some books will offer it.
Yeah.
Will offer Preakness odds on the horses to win the race. They're locked,
Yeah.
so it doesn't always benefit you. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. There's tremendous. Every time I Google it, horse racing calculator.
Yep.
You just pull it up, and it will, and then you can type your tickets on your phone and see how much it's going to cost you. So I do that every time now, and I almost know what it's going to cost when I do 3 horses over 1 overall. There's a lot of calculations in there. So
see, I for the Derby, I did fixed odds. I
okay.
bought a -130 ticket for Sovereignty, Journalism, and one other horse I can't remember, but to come in to win. So I had 3 horses to win at -130.
Oh,
and Sovereignty won. So
okay.
I cashed that. First time I'd ever played fixed odds with that, because
Right.
it was like, all right, I get 3 horses of the 20. I thought I got the top 2 horses in Sovereignty and Journalism.
Right.
Didn't want to pick between the 2, and I just picked it late at -130. It cashed. It could have paid differently if I had created a ticket that was more on the parimutuel side of things,
Yeah.
which would be a box or an all or on those lines. It's just, I mean, Ken Miller, who has been on this show and who we know really well in Iowa, and I worked with for the Matt and Miller show in Des Moines. Ken invented a bet for horse racing. Like that's what, and sold it to your former company, CG, Kenneth Fitzgerald. So like that, I think is such a unique part of horse racing, is that it's not just about who wins. There are so many different ways of figuring bets out that pay out certain things. There is a puzzle, as you and Mikey were talking about. There's a puzzle to be played when it comes to horse racing that some people really do enjoy.
Oh yeah, there's so many things that go into it. I mean, they take out a big percentage. The tracks take out a big percentage, so it's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
So you got to do exotics sometimes. And then Josie Myers just came in and said, the other problem with horse racing is these last second syndicates and bots that drive odds through the floor. I mean, this is true. So KJR 305, yeah, Joe Myers, the bots have messed up lines right before closing. When you go to make your bet, and we were doing it at Del Mar, trying to wait to see, all right, what is this horse going to be? It's 3-1. Perfect. Let's put the bet in. They get in the gate, they close, the betting, they go out the gate, and it's, 2-1. Like once all the money gets in there and this and that, it very rarely do you go, all right, I'm running up to the window. I like that horse. It's 3-1. And then it goes off and you get 6-1. So it doesn't, it's really hard for the novice to get indoctrinated into it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's because there's a lot of gray area, vagueness, blah, 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 blah. So what's that? Oh, that's Jeremy. Good.
Yeah,
that was good. Yeah, I thought that was great. Mike was great.
It was tremendous. He just said thank you for us to bearing with him with that. But I'm glad. That's why I sent that text to Jeremy. I was like, just have him get on his phone. Like, it's okay.
I'll go there every Saturday if he wants us to go do a show and hang out at Santa.
Well,
that would be awesome.
I think that was a show that a lot of people paid attention to. I know for Amanda, that was the one show. She'd never been jealous of us doing shows before that. Like, she was like, I want to be where you guys are at. Like, she was 100% in. She's like, I got to go with you guys next time and she could care less. Like, we went to Reno and other places. Like, she's like, nah. Yeah. Del Mar, she was like, okay. She's like, that was wild where you guys were set up and what we were experiencing. And for me, like, you said it to me before, they're like, you're walking into the Super Bowl, you're walking into the creme de la creme of horse tracks. Like, it goes down from here. Like, I had been to a bunch of tracks. I mean, the first bet I ever made was at Rockingham Park in New Hampshire. So I've been to horse tracks before, but I never really, I've been to Exarban in Omaha. Like, I had been to, like, the tracks of America, and then Del Mar, which I don't know. There's just something about being there. Whether it be, I guess it was the Bing Crosby song that we listened to, and the fact that we saw the train, and you see the beach, and you see the track, and then you see the people, and it's not there's a lot of people there, but it's not an overwhelming number of people that makes it uncomfortable to move around.
It was intimate.
Yeah, that's the best word for it.
There's something about that place that you feel the history. It smells different between all the food mix and all the other stuff where the surf meets the turf. And there's history there that you can feel. And the energy for Breeders' Cup was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the amount of money walking around that place.
Oh,
It's absurd between owners and trainers and all this stuff. It's going to be hard to live up to. Like we could go to Gulfstream and you'd be like, okay, I mean, that's nice, but it's not Del Mar. Like every track that I've ever been to has been like, but it's not Del Mar. So you started at the top.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And I hope we do go back again this year.
Oh, I hope and pray we go back.
It would be awesome to be back there again, to check out that environment and knowing what I'm walking into now. Yeah. Being well more prepared. And I don't know, like I've always been attracted to things that kind of give you a throwback feel. And getting to dress up, you get the hat and you get the jacket and you get the environment, you get the guys and the women and the hats, and like there's just a lot of fun. Like I will love the Derby. I've never been to the Derby, but I will love to go when I go. But I know I'm gonna say there's too many bleeping people here for the Kentucky Derby. Like being around 200,000 people,
not good for you.
Not good for me. I don't like crowds. Crowds at me don't go well. So I thought the amount of people that were at the Breeders' Cup was perfect. I was like, this is great. It's busy. Awesome. There's a lot of people, but the lines at the window weren't bad. Like we didn't have to wait an hour to bet.
No.
So you had multiple windows that were open. You had, all these different food. The merchandise tent was a bit absurd, but that's fine. That's can be expected.
Right.
Some of the things that were crazy.
Yes.
So, I mean that.
And we had a nice hookup. Jeremy did an unbelievable job.
Oh my gosh, did he ever?
I mean, he was aces. I mean, just couldn't have made it any smoother for us. I mean, all we had to do was get there. Once we got there, I mean, it was like the royal treatment. We got walked, upstairs to the press box and had a meal and sat down and discussed what we were going to do in the show and who was booked and all this other stuff. And he goes, "Oh, by the way, I got you this spot." And then we went down and set up the cameras and we were like, "Wait, we're staying right here?"
Yeah.
And I kept telling you, remember, he brought that light over and I'm like, this may be the best place. Wait till you see what happens here, because we were doing it. No one was there.
Yeah, no one was there. And then all of a sudden it was the paddock was full and it was like the horses being walked past us. It was awesome. It was such an awesome place for us to broadcast the show from. And I mean, I learned a lot doing that show. I as a tech guy and audio guy, I learned a lot about how we were going to produce that show. So next year I'll be well versed in how to go and do that. And a couple of things I'm already eyeballing and thinking in my head about how do we change the shot and how do we change the audio and just different things that we're going to do. But it was so easy to get in and out, kind of almost too easy to get in and out.
We did Friday and Saturday is the main day with the big races too. So it's a little bit different feel. There's probably a little more people and a little more
fair
hustle bustle, but either way, like if we could figure out how to get to Del Mar in July, or August or something, like that would be a nice little jet over and spend a day. And, we could do videos, whatever. I think the way to bring horse racing back is to take people to the track.
Fair. I would agree.
Like we could take them to the book and watch the races and hang out and fire different things. But it's like sports, really. I mean,
it is sports.
When you go to a hockey game, you in person, you become like more of a fan, or you get it more. Horse racing has to find a way to get people to the track for it to continue to survive, because it's really having a tough time.
I would agree. Good stuff there, Adam. Mike, appreciate it. We're watching him on FanDuel TV all weekend talking about the Preakness.